ओम श्री परमात्मने नमः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। श्रीमद् भगवद गीता साधका संजीवनी 10th chapter, The Opulence of the Absolute, verses 8 to 11. Devotion to God and its fruit and the glory of God's grace. In the verse 7, Lord Krishna explained that he who knows in reality his divine glory and power is endowed with unfaltering yoga of devotion. What is meant by unfaltering yoga of devotion? The answer comes in the next verse. Verse 8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samnavitaha. I am the origin of the whole creation. From me all things move. The wise, knowing this, full of devotion, worship me. Comment. Everything in the world moves because of the Lord. As electricity manifests itself in various forms in instruments suited to those forms, the Lord is the root of all the worldly actions. A striver, instead of paying attention to the various feelings, actions, things, and persons, etc., should behold the Lord who is the origin of all of them. In the next verse, the Lord mentions the way of the worship of those devotees. Verse 9. Machchitta madgata prana bodhyantaha parasparam kathyantascha mam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. With their minds fixed on me, with their lives surrendered to me, enlightening each other about my greatness and ever speaking of me, they ever remain contented and delighted. Comment. Those who have realized that the Lord is the origin and source of inspiration of all things and creatures, for them nothing remains to be done, to be known, and to be acquired. They have ever to be engrossed in Him. The same fact has been explained in this verse. Their minds are fixed on the Lord. There are two things. One is fixation of the mind on the Lord, and the second is fixation of the self on the Lord. When a devotee, by admitting the fact that he is the Lord's, is absorbed in Him, his mind, intellect, etc. are automatically absorbed in Him, because these organs depend on the doer. So, if the devotee worships the Lord and wants to fix his mind on Him by thinking that he is a worldly householder, it is very difficult for him to fix his mind. It means that if he himself remains devoted to the world and attempts to absorb his mind in God, it is practically impossible. Secondly, a person can fix his mind on what he likes the most, and he likes the most the thing or person with whom he has his affinity. So a devotee should admit the fact that he is only the Lord's and the Lord is only His. The body and the world are not His. So he surrenders himself to Him and His will becomes His will. Such devotees are said to have fixed their minds on God. They are not attached to their vital force. They have neither a desire to live nor are afraid of death, because they know that they are different from life and have no affinity with it, while their affinity with the Lord is axiomatic. So, a striver's only aim should be to realize God without caring for the favorable and unfavorable circumstances, such as health and sickness, respect and insult, and pleasure and pain, etc. When two devotees meet, they talk about the sport, secret qualities and glories of the Lord. When they meet any devotee who is interested in listening to the divine discourse, they hold the divine discourse. As Sanka, etc., all the four hold divine discourses and also listen to them. One of them becomes the speaker and the other three become the listeners. But the speaker is not proud of his talent and the listener is not ashamed of his becoming a listener. Thus, the exchange of those divine discourses, sports, qualities, glories, and secret, etc. of the Lord creates contentment. They get contentment only in Him. By explaining the way of the worship of the devotees in the previous verse, now in the next two verses, the Lord explains how He responds to those devotional activities of the devotees. Verse 10. Tesham sattata yuktanam bhajataam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upyanti te. To them, ever devout, worshipping me with love, I confer that yoga of wisdom, equanimity, by which they attain me. Comment. A devotee to the Lord has no desire to gain wisdom or equanimity or anything else besides the Lord. They ever remain absorbed in Him. So, their whole responsibility goes to the Lord. They become mere instruments in His hands. So, the Lord confers the yoga of wisdom on them. Verse 11. तेषाम् एवानुकम्पार्थम् अहम् अज्ञानाजं तमहा नश्याम्यै आत्मा भावस्थो ज्ञानदीपेन भस्वता. In order to shower my grace on them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy the ignorance, burn darkness by the luminous lamp of wisdom. Comment. Those devotees have no desire to gain any mundane pleasure or prosperity, etc. They don't even aspire for salvation. They worship the Lord with devotion without a desire for fruit. The Lord is very much pleased with their devotion and His heart melts with compassion. So, He wants to confer something on them, but they have no desire. So, by His grace, He destroys their ignorance, born darkness, and enables them to attain perfection. He supplements all their deficiencies. An important fact: when a devotee remains absorbed only in the Lord confers on him equanimity as well as self-realization. It means that the devotee has not to make efforts either for equanimity or self-realization, because where there is mother in the form of devotion, there are the sons in the form of dispassion and knowledge. Self-realization. It means that the perfection attained by the aspirant may have some deficiency, but the perfection conferred by the Lord has not even a trace of imperfection. As the Lord provides gain and security to those devotees who worship Him alone, He confers equanimity and self-realization to those devotees who entirely depend on Him, though they have no desire. And even by conferring equanimity and self-realization, He remains a debtor to them. As the Lord Himself declares in the Bhagavata for the gopis, I can't pay the debt of the chaste gopis even by having the long age of the gods, because they broke the chain of domestic affinity, which even the great seers and sages don't break easily. The devotees are so much absorbed in the devotion to the Lord that they are surprised to perceive equanimity and self-realization in them. Moreover, they pray to God that they should not feel any singularity in them by having His gifts given to them by His grace, but they ever want to remain absorbed in devotion to Him. Om Tat Sat. All glories to Sri Parthasarathi, Lord Shri Krishna. All glories to Bhagavad Vani, SrimadBhagvadGeeta. Sri Hari Arpanamastu.